A rainy autumn evening shrouded the abandoned psychiatric hospital in a cloak of mystery and horror. Alexandra, a young research psychologist, decided to delve into the dark secrets of the place. The hospital in question was notorious for its horrific experiments on its patients, and many believed it was cursed. Alexandra stood before the enormous doors of the mansion, feeling the cold wind penetrate her coat and pierce her skin. Her determination and curiosity overpowered her fear, and the light in her eyes showed an unquenchable desire to uncover the secrets of this dark place. Stepping inside, Alexandra found herself in a historical reality, ruined and neglected. Light from a single window, glazed with black fabrics, streamed in, creating a play of light and shadow that emphasized the gloominess of the surroundings. Through corridors full of sloped floors and chipped bricks, Alexandra walked by feel. There was a rustling sound beneath each step, as if the hospital was breathing its own insurance. She was not alone, however. Strangely ghostly figures of patients flashed in her peripheral vision, and their shadows stretched across the walls, as if trying to get between Alexandra and her target. Alexandra found the door that led to the archives of the psychiatric hospital. Among the dusty shelves and ruins, she found records of patients who had suffered horrific experiments. With each new page of horror and despair, she plunged deeper into the dark past of the place. One evening, as Alexandra was immersed in reading the horrific patient records, the room became unusually quiet. The air was saturated with tension, as if the hospital itself were holding its breath. Alexandra felt a stare turn to her from outside the room. But when she turned around, there was no one in the room. This was only the beginning of strange events. Nights were spent in frightening insomnia. Alexandra had dreams in which she was haunted by hysterical patients, their screams penetrating to the very depths of her mind. She began to doubt her mental stability, as the line between reality and nightmares became increasingly blurred. Days and nights merged into a single furnace. Alexandra could feel the hospital trying to influence her, to manipulate her mind and soul. She heard whispers of the wind, but in those whispers she could hear the voices of patients calling out her name. Her hands trembled as she wrote in her journal, and the words on the pages began to distort, forming terrifying messages. One day, during her research, Alexandra stumbled upon a locked door. Behind it lurked the depths of a hospital that had never before seen the light. But something inside her told her that the answer to all questions was stored there. Her heart beat much faster as she inserted the key into the keyhole and turned it. The door opened, and before her was a sight she could never have dreamed of. The hall was decorated with cracked walls and grim murals depicting the history of the hospital. But in the center of the hall stood the figure of a grim creature, shining with an ominous light. It was a spirit, a being who embodied the accumulated evil in the psychiatric hospital. It turned its black eyes to Alexandra, and its piercing gaze penetrated to the very depths of her soul. Alexandra felt that she was now on the edge between life and death. The spirit began to utter unintelligible words, filling the room with a dark energy. The air became dense, and Alexandra felt her strength begin to leave her. She tried to resist, closing her eyes and trying to chase away the terror, but its presence became more and more overwhelming. The names of the patients whose suffering is captured in the records began to echo in her mind. They seemed real, as if the souls of the patients had come alive in this sinister space and were now trying to take over her mind. Alexandra realized that the curse of the hospital, which had ruined those who fell under its power, now wanted to consume her as well. With willpower and the last drops of her sanity, Alexandra was able to concentrate. She began to repeat the mantra she had studied for years to protect her mind from outside influences. Her voice sounded quiet and trembling, but there was determination and power in it. Suddenly, the hall shook, and the spirit began to let out a piercing shriek. The power of its presence weakened, and Alexandra felt the dark forces holding the psychiatric hospital in their grasp begin to crumble. With exhausted strength but unyielding determination, Alexandra continued her journey through the hospital corridors. She freed patients from their torture, broke the seal of the curse, and set their souls free. Finally, Alexandra reached the main room of the hospital, where the power of the curse was strongest. Before her stood the figure of the hospital's creator himself, the man who had ruthlessly experimented on the patients and sealed their souls in this dark place. The creator's spirit let out an eerie shriek and shrank back, trying to maintain its power over the hospital. Alexandra made one last dash and extended her arm forward, channeling her energy toward the spirit. She used her knowledge and the power of her mind to strike it down. The battle unfolded in all its grim beauty. Shadows and illusions swirled around Alexandra, trying to confuse her and distract her from her goal. She fought the curse, confronted with memories of horrible experiments, with visions of patients tormented by pain and madness. But Alexandra did not back down. She found strength in her inner confrontation and determination. She overcame her own fears and doubts, plunging deeper into the darkness to awaken the light. Finally, at the end of the battle, Alexandra won. The spirit of the psychiatric hospital's creator crumbled into dust, and the curse that held the patients captive dissipated. The souls broke free and headed for the sky, leaving their torment behind. Alexandra left the hospital, leaving its dark secrets behind. She understood that she had brought justice and peace to many suffering souls. Although she left behind a dark past, she was determined not to forget what she had learned. She began to write a book about her experiences to warn others against exploring dangerous and abandoned places, and to ensure that no one else would suffer from the horrors hidden in the dark corners of the past. Her book has become a memorial to those who have lost their innocence and sanity within these walls, and a warning to future explorers. But even after leaving the hospital, shadows of the past never left Alexandra. In her dreams she saw the faces of patients, heard their whispers and cries that haunted her for a long time. They reminded her of what she had gone through and the price she had paid for her descent into darkness. As the years passed, the past began to glimmer ever paler, and Alexandra was able to find peace in her heart. But she never forgot her journey to the abandoned mental hospital. Her experience became part of herself, permeating her work and life. Now Alexandra helped people suffering from mental illness and used her knowledge to overcome the dark shadows that shrouded their minds. She understood that each person had their own unique path to healing and that even the deepest wounds could heal. The memory of the abandoned psychiatric hospital stayed with Alexandra for life. She knew she had found her calling in helping others and in exploring the dark corners of the human psyche. Her story was filled with fear, horror, and survival, but it also carried hope and strength of spirit.